Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tito Corona. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the Metro handling the San Fernando Valley. We are here for a very special day. We are reaching a major milestone for the light rail transit that's coming to the San Fernando Valley. And I want to thank you and welcome you for joining us today. We have a lot of information to present today. And let's get started by going over some of the panelists that will be presenting today. Let's go to the next slide. Before we introduce the panelists, let me briefly go over what the agenda is. We're going to be discussing what the meeting purpose and the format is for today's meeting. Then we'll go into the presentations with the panelists. And once the panelists are done with the presentations, we will go into the questions and comments. You know, as I was saying earlier, this is a major milestone for the project that we're approaching. And one thing that I will repeat a couple times is that we're able to provide an informational meeting here for you today. And what that means is that we'll be able to take your questions and also respond to them. I know that many of you have been here since the beginning and you've been following us on this project for quite a while. Thank you for staying with us. We're reaching that next major milestone that you'll start seeing some more activities on the street. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, well, thank you and welcome. You're joining us at the right time as we are about to finish the environmental portion, which is the environmental impact statement and the environmental impact report. You'll be hearing the words EIS and EIR, but that's pretty much what we're discussing today. As far as who's going to be presenting today, I want to introduce our panelists. From being with the project from the beginning, it's Mr. Walt Davis. He's the project manager for the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project. He's going to be providing all the updates on where we are with this project and some of the other information that we are having about this as far as where we are, where we're going, and then where we will be going next. Ms. Katie Lemon, she's a senior manager transportation planning for First Last Mile. Katie Lemon will be providing information as to the final plan that we have for the pathway network to and from each station. She'll go over a little bit more about what First Last Mile is, but you know, we will be here and answer any questions regarding any of these topics that we're discussing. And then once we complete the project, we'll go into construction, or at least in the design phase and construction. And that's where Miss Monica Bourne will be joining us. She will talk about what the next steps are. She's from our program management department. She'll be overseeing the design build contractor as we move forward. And then we'll have more people come and join us at the end to answer any additional questions that we may have. So pretty much in a nutshell, that's what we're going to be doing. Let's go to the next slide and show you how to participate. So just so everybody knows, this meeting is being recorded, and that's for the purposes of uploading it to our project website. So once, for those of you who have some colleagues or friends or know people that weren't able to make it, we will be uploading this presentation on the project website as soon as we are completed here and send it over for upload. So you'll be able to view this on the project website to get more insight, or maybe just review it once more. We're going to be providing quite a bit of information, so it'd be great to familiarize yourself with what's being provided here. Now, there is Armenian interpretation. So what I'm going to ask right now is for our Armenian interpreter, Jackie, to please join us and make the announcement for those who are listening on the English line so they know how to transfer over to the Armenian channel. Jackie? Jackie, are you able to join us on the English channel to make the Armenian announcement? Okay, for those who might be listening on the English channel by accident, can you provide let them know that they have to switch over to the Armenian channel on this channel in case that didn't happen? Okay, I'm going to make the announcement also in Spanish for those of people who are interested in listening to us in Spanish. We will be having a Spanish meeting on October 26th. So my following announcement will be regarding that in Spanish. Hola y bienvenidos. Esta junta va a ser conducida en inglés. Si gustarían o prefieren escuchar la reunión en español, vamos a tener una reunión en español el 26 de octubre a las 6 de la tarde. Si gustarían participar en español, donde puedan oír esta presentación solamente en español y dar sus preguntas en español, favor de acompañarnos el 26 de octubre a las 6 de la tarde, que es un lunes. Muchas gracias. Okay, now we're back to the English. We're going to, before we go on, I also wanted to let you know that there is a question and answer function located at the bottom of your screen. You can ask your questions, but they will be answered or addressed once we reach the questions and answer period. Now, you may have some questions that may be addressed during the presentation. So if you have a question that you want to ask, maybe you want to jot it down. And then later on, once we get closer to the completion of the presentation, you can ask your question if it hasn't been addressed. But in many cases, during the presentation, some of these questions do get answered. And we also know that some people are not able to join us right at the beginning. So, you know, I will be repeating some of this information again. Now, for those of you who are joining us by telephone and listening only, you can text your questions. So the following phone number that I'm going to provide is only for those who are participating via cell phone. Or home phone number. You can text a question to us by texting it to this phone number, 818-650-0619. Once again, area code 818-650-0619. I can give you some time to write that down for those of you who are listening by phone. So now let's get before we get started with the video, I would like to hear a little bit about you. So I want to bring up this question that we have for you. We can bring that up right now, the survey. And I'm going to read it for those of you who are, again, listening by phone. You won't be able to participate by phone, but at least you can hear what the questions are. The question is this your first East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project meeting? So you can let us know if this is your first time, yes, or if it's not and you've been with us for a while, thank you again. And we would love to hear from either one of you. We just want to know pretty much how you are able to vote. Also, the second question is, have you ever ridden light rail before? And again, if you have ridden light rail, please let us know yes or no, and we will go ahead and provide you with a little bit more time to answer these questions. Okay, we have some results, and I'm going to read the results out so people can see. So is this your first East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project? Well, 49% of you, this is your first meeting. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate your participation. And we also have 51% that have been here before. And thank you for sticking with us. We love the fact that we have people that are with us and have been to meetings before. And we are just as excited when we have people that are joining us for the first time. So we have a great mix here of pretty much 50-50 of people who are yes and no, who are here for the first time and who are been here for a while. So thank you. As far as the second question. Sorry, my answers. Oh, here we go. Have you ever written light rail before? This is great. We have 72% that have written light rail before. So you basically know what we're going to be bringing to your area, whether it's through our light rail systems that are in the San Gabriel Valley, on the west side, going through USC, or if you have, or the one that goes, our light rail that goes to Long Beach. We go many places, and now we're going to bring this to the San Fernando Valley. So 72% of you have written light rail before. Only 28 of you have not yet. Again, you'll have an opportunity once we go live with this project. So again, thank you all for participating with us for this survey. So now the next thing I would like to do is we're going to be showing you a video of this project. And I'm not familiar about whether or not we are able to, we are reading this, or if we have any participants who are listening by phone, but I will be reading the captions. So people who are listening in by phone, you will hear what the captions are for the video as the video plays. So please excuse me for those of you who are watching it and you hear somebody reading it, that'll be me, but I'm doing it for those who are unable to see the video joining us by phone. So let's get started with the video. Thank you. We're building light rail for the San Fernando Valley. The East San Fernando Valley light rail line will travel between Metro G Line Orange and the city of San Fernando. This 9-mile route will serve over 35,000 daily riders and will travel along the center median. The line will connect the destinations from Van Nuys Civic Center to the thousands of homes, schools, and businesses along the route. This new line will carry riders in much the same way as current bus trips, which average 1 to 2 miles. It will connect to Champs Charter High School of the Arts, senior and assisted living centers, and the LA County Department of Children and Family Services. Along the line is the Zev Yaroslavsky Family Support Center, which serves over 1,000 people a day. A maintenance facility will be built near Keswick Street, where the rail fleet will be serviced and cleaned. This facility will employ dozens of workers across a variety of fields as the line approaches the former General Motors Van Nuys plant. Riders will see murals created in honor of the facility. Traveling north into Panorama City, the line will connect to Panorama High School. In the heart of Van Nuys, the line will serve Roscoe Boulevard and connect to other bus lines in the valley. Heading north, riders will connect to the Plaza del Valle, a popular dining, shopping, and cultural community plaza. The line will head north towards Panorama City. And will connect to parks, homes, and businesses. Next is Arleta, where the line will connect with neighborhoods and the local high school. Entering Pacoima, the line will connect to neighborhood markets, the library, and Pacoima City Hall. The line will turn northwest at San Fernando Road to the city of San Fernando, where the line will run alongside the existing Metrolink tracks and bike path. The Silmar San Fernando Metrolink station will complete the line, connecting more people to more places. So that concludes my portion of the introduction. I am going to introduce Mr. Walt Davis, who will provide the presentation from this point on, talking about the project and basically give you the latest update on it. Mr. Walt Davis, can you join us?
Thank you, Tito. I appreciate the introduction. And before jumping off to my presentation, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to all of those who are joining me for this virtual meeting. I know the times are different. I know that it's a beautiful, beautiful day in the San Fernando Valley, and there are a lot of things that you could be doing. But, I appreciate you recognizing the importance of this project and cutting out a little bit of time in your day to listen to us. So thank you very much. And with that, this first slide that I'd like to present to you. Right there in the middle in the aqua color, you have the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor Project. The line extends from the former Metro Orange line, now called the Metro G line, north for 9.2 miles, terminating at the Silmar San Fernando Metrolink station. In between that are 14 at-grade stations. 6.7 miles of alignment will be in the median of Van Nuys Boulevard, and then up top where it turns to the northwest, that will be adjacent to the Antelope Valley Metrolink line along San Fernando Road. We've gone out to a number of meetings that we've had for this project, and we've had dozens of them. A common comment I have received is people saying that Metro has overlooked the valley, and that even though the valley represents 39% of the population of the city of Los Angeles, there isn't a whole lot of priority or premium transit service in the valley. So I wanted to show this map to show that in addition to this light rail transit project, which will start construction soon and be in operations by 2028, there are a number of other exciting projects that are planned through Measure M for the valley. First up top, the gold color. And I'll show you, this is just a color. And the reason why is because the planners are still laying out the alignment. They're meeting with the community, they're talking, they're doing technical analysis to determine what alignment would best serve the needs of the people who will utilize the alignment once it's open. But we do know the alignment for the North San Fernando Valley BRT will go from east to west. It will connect with the Metro G line on the west, and it will connect with the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor project. And I'd like to emphasize that because we're trying to create regional connectivity. Although there's a lot of great origin and destination points on Van Nuys Boulevard, not everybody is starting their trip and ending their trip on Van Nuys Boulevard. So by creating these nexuses, these connectivities with other alignments, and I'll emphasize that later in my presentation, it makes it so you can better utilize Metro for your transit needs, and not only Metro, but premium Metro service. So that's North San Fernando Valley BRT. To the bottom in the middle, the purple color, I like to call this the 900-pound gorilla of projects. This is the Sepulveda Corridor project. And when this is constructed, and it will most likely be heavy rail, underground, it will connect the west side and later LAX to the San Fernando Valley. So coupled with the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor project, the North San Fernando Valley BRT, we think these are going to be transitional for the way people travel in the San Fernando Valley. With a connection to the west side, we forecast that more than 100,000 people a day will use the Sepulveda Transit Corridor. They'll come in and connect with East San Fernando Valley. We're not sure where yet. We are coordinating with that team, but they're still doing their technical analysis, but we do know it will connect with East San Fernando Valley. So we're not building anything that would make it difficult for them to connect with us. And then to the right in the green, that is the North Hollywood BRT project that will one day connect the Metro Orange line going east to the Gold line and service the communities of Burbank and Glendale. So a lot of transportation options and a lot of transportation projects you can see in the not too distant future. Next slide. Okay, I can go this relatively quickly. I've been the project manager for a while, dating back to 2011 when we had this slide to the left. And we affectionately refer to this slide as our spaghetti map. And when we started this project, we looked at all the different alternatives we could do for north-south travel in the San Fernando Valley. We developed this looking at north-south and looking at hybrids between the two, between Sepulveda and Van Nuys. And we went out, we had 6 community meetings, 6 scoping meetings, and talked to the community. And what that led to is the map to the right. What the community told us is there's a lot more places that they want to travel to on Van Nuys Boulevard than on Sepulveda. And this matched the technical analysis that we did for the project. There's about, before the pandemic, there were about 20 to 25,000 people a day that rode transit on Van Nuys Boulevard. That's the Sepulveda, which is the second highest north-south route in the valley. There's less than 10,000. So it showed us that a lot more premium spots to travel to on Van Nuys Boulevard. I might add 2011 to 2018, that seems like a long period. And it doesn't usually take nearly as long to do an environmental document. What happened with this project is it had $170 million programmed to it. And that's an extremely high number of dollars. But in terms of transportation and rail, it wouldn't even build you a maintenance and storage facility when you do land acquisition. So this project hasn't been working actively for the last 9 years. It was kind of put on hiatus and we slowed down for quite a while until Measure M passed in, I believe, 2016. And when Measure M passed, it made $1.3 billion, that's billion with a B, available to the project and made light rail transit a reality. And with that, we were able to move forward the project, get the LPA selected in 2018 and move to the point that we are today. Okay, next slide, please. Next, I'm going to show you a few renderings that we had commissioned. A lot of people have told me they can't envision what LRT would look like on Van Nuys Boulevard, so we had these renderings done. The Metro G line, formerly the Orange line, at Van Nuys Boulevard will be grade separated. Matter of fact, that will be done before our project's constructed. They'll probably start construction within the next year and a half. So it will be above Van Nuys Boulevard. So if you ride the Orange or the G line, your trip would be quite a bit more faster because you won't be stopping at a red signal light at that intersection in the not too distant future. To make the connection between the East San Fernando Valley project and the Metro G line as seamless and as safe as possible, we'll have the East San Fernando Valley light rail station directly underneath the G line. So in about 8 years before the Olympics, if you're standing just south of the Metro G line looking to the northeast, this is what you'll be looking at, or very similar to what you'll be looking at, with trains coming into the service of the station, with elevators, escalators, and stairs, making the transitioning upstairs, or if you need to cross the street from the BRT, you see the escalator to the left. So as clean and as comfortable for customers as possible. Okay, next slide. What I try to emphasize in these pictures is regional connectivity. As I mentioned, not all the places you want to travel from and to are on Van Nuys Boulevard. And this slide shows the North San Fernando Valley BRT project. We don't know if it's going to cross at maybe Nordhoff or Roscoe or another street, but for this rendering, we assume to be at Roscoe, which is a heavily transited street for both Roscoe and Van Nuys. So if BRT is there and it is a dedicated bus lane, this might be what it looks like, with the red striping crossing Van Nuys for a dedicated bus lane, with the stations on the far side of the street, so people can transition via that crosswalk in the middle of Van Nuys Boulevard and make that transition as safe and as comfortable as possible, with signalized intersections, stopping the traffic and making it safe for everybody. Okay, the next picture, please. And again, regional connectivity. This is the Van Nuys Metrolink station. So get your orientation. If you're standing on the west side of the street, looking at the southern end of the station as it will be constructed, and looking towards the Metrolink line. That's the Metrolink station that is just south of Satakoy. So you transition to the crosswalk as you come off the elevated platform, cross the street, and walk over to the Metrolink station. Ideally, we'd like to have the station a little bit closer to that Metrolink station, but for those of you familiar with this area, you know that the street dips down immediately following the station to go underneath the Metrolink tracks. And we can't build the station on a grade as the grade starts descending or ascending. It has to be on a flat surface. Okay, that's the answer for my renderings. The next slide. This slide that we recently had made, because a lot of this community, and we wanted to emphasize this, is an underserved community, is a community that hasn't seen a great deal of public investment in the past. And that's why we call it an underserved community. And we're kind of proud of this fact, of this project, that it will be serving mostly underserved communities. If you look at the green highlighted portions of this map, these are sections of the area that have been designated as equity-focused community. And an equity-focused community is a community that has met the minimum criteria as it pertains to ethnicity, level of poverty realized in that community, and number of people that live in that community that are transit dependent. So if you look at the map, you see virtually the entire alignment is in an equity-focused community, except little swaths in Pacoima. And I will say Pacoima is real close, but didn't quite meet the minimum criteria. I might also point out that we found out that a lot of the communities in equity-focused communities have essential jobs, meaning they worked during the pandemic, and their cases of COVID were quite a bit higher than other communities. So we overlaid this map as well with communities that have been heavily hit with COVID. So if you look at the areas that are kind of a darkish orange color, those are communities that were hit with over 3,600 cases of COVID. So you see a correlation between equity-focused communities and those that have been most vulnerable to the COVID. But turning on to a lighter side, some of the positive about the project, it is going to make access to more than 41,000 jobs that are in the corridor, as well as access when this pandemic's over to healthcare opportunities and educational opportunities. So premium service that will provide people access to these locations that might help their present situations they find themselves. So an investment in premium service in the Valley, coupled with other projects that I mentioned earlier on the Measure M map. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide, about 2 years ago, the LPA was selected. LPA is the locally preferred alternative. And as I mentioned before, that is light rail transit for 9.2 miles. But before that was selected, we had what we called public hearings. So we had 3 meetings, and we had I believe, 60-day public review and comment period. And during that period, we received over 900 individual comments, and a lot of those comment cards had more than one comment on it. In total, we received over 1,700 comments. And I'd like to state that in all the projects I've worked on in the past, most of the comments we always receive on projects are negative. Usually the only people that show up to these meetings are the people that are going to be negatively impacted and want to tell us why they don't like the project. This is the first one I've ever worked on where more comments were received that were positive for the project. Most of the comments received said, we need LPA, we need light rail transit, we need premium service in the valley, and we need it fast, and don't shortchange the valley. So that was somewhat refreshing. But of the comments that we received that did have issues or did have concerns, the most common of which, and I have them listed here on this slide, was opposition to maintenance and storage facility A. And this is a maintenance storage facility is where the trains go in the evening to be washed, cleaned, and serviced and prepared for the next day of service. And we had 3 places that we were looking at for a possible location. And one of them was just north of the Metro G line and just to the west of Van Nuys. And that community did an outstanding job of organizing and filling the ballot boxes with negative comments saying no to option A. And in response, we didn't choose option A. We did listen to those comments, and we selected option B, which is just south of the Ventura Metrolink tracks and just to the west of Van Nuys, where we received very little opposition. It will impact no residential properties, and we actually received comment letters in support of that location. The next most common comment that we received was related to traffic concerns. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When you take Van Nuys Boulevard, which is designated as a Class 2 secondary highway with 3 lanes in each direction from the G line north to Parthenia, you are going to have traffic impacts when you introduce a 26-foot swath down the middle of it to accommodate light rail transit. You can't avoid that, and we cannot mitigate, avoid, or minimize that. The only way to do that would be doing large swaths of right-of-way acquisitions, which would change the character of the corridor. So there are going to be traffic impacts. It's going to impact your left-hand turns, and it's going to make it a little bit slower. But what we like to point out is that according to Caltrans, one traffic lane on a secondary highway carries less than 800 people when fully loaded. A light rail train with a 3-car train set, which this will be, with a 5-minute headway, meaning a train going by every 5 minutes, can carry 4,800 people per hour. So we like to say in large part, we are the mitigation to our own impact because we make a much more efficient utilization of Van Nuys Boulevard. We can carry about 8 times the number that in one traffic lane can carry, and we can do that in both directions. So yes, you'll see traffic impacts, but hopefully in the future, when you're stuck in traffic and you see a train going by at 30, 35 miles per hour with preferential treatment at signalized intersections and connectivity to the North San Fernando Valley BRT, the Orange Line, and to Metrolink, that maybe a lot of those folks will choose to leave their automobile at home and take advantage of this service. The next most common comment we received was related to right-of-way acquisition and displacement. And yes, we will have to do right-of-way acquisitions as part of this project, the majority of which will be for the maintenance and storage facility where we need about 20 acres. We can't avoid this, but I will say that we are going to do more than what the state and the federal government requires. We're going to work with everybody that's impacted by this project as it pertains to right-of-way acquisition, and we're going to try to make their transition from the present location to their new location, or if they want to be bought out, a fair market value of the property that's agreed upon by a third-party appraisal company. We are going to try to make it as smooth and as easy for them as possible. And many of those folks are calling me on a weekly basis, and they're probably online right now. So we have our right-of-way people, real estate people online right now. If we have any questions, we'll do our best to address those. And the last comment I received related to people asking about bicycle modes and pedestrian modes. And I love this comment because what that indicated to me is a lot of people want to walk to our stations or bike to our stations. So in response to that, we did a first last mile plan that showed ways in which we can accommodate that. I will caution that those streets are owned by the City of Los Angeles and City of San Fernando, so we're going to have to work with coordination to see what we can and cannot do. But we have developed some exciting plans, and I'm going to let Katie Limit, our next speaker, talk about those. Next slide, please. Okay, you're going to find that the FEIR, the Final Environmental Impact Report statement, is very similar to the draft Environmental Impact Report statement. One of the big changes is all the comments that we received on the draft is covered in the final. So if you made a comment during the DEIR, you can go into it, find the comment that you made and how we responded to that comment, and that is in that FEIR. Some of the things you will see in the document real quick, the top bullet, $1.6 billion is available for this project. That's 1.3 billion in Measure M that's inflated to 1.6. And included in that is $400 million that's been committed from the state of California to this project. And if we have any state partners on this phone call, just want to extend a thank you to our state partners. The bullet below that, this project was environmentally cleared for both state and federal purpose, meaning we did both a CEQA and NEPA document. The NEPA document we did is to make the project eligible for federal funds. Right now, it has 0 funds programmed to it from the federal government, but we want it to be eligible in case federal funds become available. So after November, if things become less gridlocked in Washington, D.C., and any stimulus funds are made available, this project will be uniquely qualified because it'll be shovel ready to compete for those project funds and maybe fill any funding gaps we may have for the future. Okay, the next bullet relates to cost estimates. And I can't exaggerate it. We don't have, our cost estimates are very liquid. For the environmental document, we only did about a 5% level of engineering. So we did a big swath and we made a whole lot of guesses on what cost would be. And we did those estimates mostly back in 2014 when we were looking at the alignment. And since 2014, as most of you know, right away, the cost of real estate has gone way up. Utility relocation, that cost has gone way up. So some of the costs have gone way up. So what we've done, the next bullet, is we've introduced initial operational segments or the possibility of phasing projects. I'd like to emphasize we're not picking on this project, we're doing this for all Measure M projects. With the pandemic, our biggest source of income is sales tax receipts. We get a lot more from that than we do from fare boxes, probably about 10 times as much. And as a result, we've had literally billions of dollars less money coming in than we would normally have. We want to build as much as we can, as fast as we can. So when we are ready to start building, if we don't have enough money to build the whole project, we still want to start, because if we delay the project, costs are only going to increase and we're going to be further away from being able to build it. So as our CEO says, we like to build as much as we can as fast as we can. And the phases we are considering is building from the Metro G line on the southern up to San Fernando Road as a first initial operational segment. And that's not saying that we're going to do this. It's going to say it's an option in our toolbox if we don't have enough money. And if we don't have enough money, we'll build that far while we concurrently look for other funding resources that allow us to build the other 2.5 miles. I want to emphasize that because our board has been committed for the entire 9.2 miles from the beginning, and we're not trying to shave any part of the project. We're just trying to advance it, build the maintenance storage facility, start acquiring railroad cars, which takes 2 to 4 years, and get the project moving forward. I think that's the last of my slides, so I will turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Lemon. I'm a transportation planner at Metro on the first and last mile team. I'll be presenting the next section of the presentation, but first we'd like to do another poll to better understand our audience, you. So if we could pull up the poll, please. Great. So for those of you joining us by phone, I'll read the questions. For those of you on Zoom, please go ahead and select your response. The questions are, do you live near the San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project? Yes or no? Do you work near the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project? Or do you go to school near the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Project? So we'll give a minute for folks to cast their responses. Great to hear from you if you have a chance to respond. Great, so we've got the results here. I want to go over those with you. For the first question, do you live near the project? 59% of folks on the meeting today responded that they do not live near the project, while 41% said that they do live near the future project. For the question, do you work near the East San Fernando Valley Transit Project? 67% said no, and 33% said yes for working near the project. And the final question was, do you go to school near the project? 98% said no, and 2% said yes. So thank you for our 2% of students on the call. We're glad to have you joining us this evening. Next slide, please. One of Metro's priorities is connecting our transit riders to the station. First and last mile is the concept that folks need to get to the transit station to begin their trip on transit, and then after they get off of our service, then they need to get all the way to their destination, like school or work. So through past surveys of our transit riders, we've found that most of our Metro riders either walk, bike, or take other rolling modes like a skateboard or scooter to get to the stations. So the goal of First and Last Mile is to improve the transit experience for our riders by planning for those walking and biking connections to the stations. And some of the benefits of doing this are to increase the reach of our transit system, improve safety for people walking and biking, and to focus on the connections to and from our stations, planning outside of the station footprint itself. Next slide, please. So for this project, as a separate and parallel effort from the light rail project, the First Last Mile planning work began on a little bit different timeline. We started in 2018 and completed early 2020. And as Tito mentioned, this is an important part of our work here at Metro. And we followed a process that Metro's developed called the First and Last Mile methodology that's laid out on this slide. And that begins by first analyzing existing conditions and conducting walk audits in the field, where we really take in detailed, granular conditions about how the sidewalks are, where are the bicycle facilities, what is really happening on the ground around the future stations. And with that information, we develop and draft a pathway network of key routes that we expect folks would be taking to access the future station. And at that point, we really need, this is a critical juncture, to have really deep community engagement. And so we held community events to better understand the community's priorities and concerns. And then we took that input and refined the pathway network to finalize those station area plans and finalize specific walking and biking improvements within the half-mile walking distance to the station and up to 3 miles for biking improvements. So that's all been completed at this point, and we will be taking that to our Metro Board of Directors for adoption. Next slide, please. So I wanted to highlight a little bit about the walk audits, which is a key component of our First Last Mile methodology. So in late 2018, we held 4 community walk audits, and folks from the community joined us, including community members and stakeholders, city council members, and city staff, all joined in to help us understand the community at a detailed level around these station areas. And we used an online data collection tool to take in all of that detailed information in a quick and easy way. So what the participants were looking for on the walk audits were strengths, barriers, and even proposing specific project ideas at the time of the walk audit. Next slide, please. I also wanted to mention our community events in a little more detail for First and Last Mile. For this planning effort, we partnered with 2 local community groups, Pacoima Beautiful and Safe Moves, on the development of the First and Last Mile plan, as well as on the community engagement. So we held 4 project update and First Last Mile workshops in the summer of 2019. There are also multiple Coffee with the Principal events, and we also had a survey that we received almost 450 responses for. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and that concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And I'm back. And I see that we have, we're right now at about 94, 95 attendees. I want to thank you for joining us. If you missed my introductions at the beginning, not everybody can join us at the beginning of the meeting, but welcome. My name is Tito Corona. I am the area manager for the San Fernando Valley. I have a unique position, just like this project, that deals with planning and environmental, also with construction relations, as this is where the project is in its stages. So you just heard from the planning aspect what we had, and now I'm going to talk about what we've done for outreach on the next slide. So what you see here is what's called a car card. And that pretty much we have 400 of those on our metro bus lines that traverse the Van Nuys Boulevard area. Something of note is that the San Fernando Valley corridor, the Van Nuys corridor is a very popular and well-traversed corridor that we are currently at over 8,000 daily riders on Van Nuys. Now, before COVID hit, we were a little bit over 11,000. So that shows how much we're approaching the same numbers before COVID and how vital it is for people in the San Fernando Valley, specifically on Van Nuys Boulevard, to utilize transit for their day-to-day travel. So thank you for those of you who are participating. We appreciate your help with this and are glad that you're able to join us. We've also delivered over 20,000 flyers door to door along the whole corridor. So if you've seen our flyers and are joining us based on that, we appreciate you joining us. There are many ways that we are providing contacts. We're also e-blasting. We have a database of over 3,400 contacts that we've sent out the invites. The last invite that was sent was this morning. So I'm hoping that you received that and you are on our database. If at any time you change your opinion about following us, you can always select the unsubscribe portion at the bottom of our e-blast that we send. But this is specifically just regarding the project. So hopefully you can stay with us and let people know that they could also join us to sign up with our email database. We also did next door posting. This is a great number of, another way to reach a huge number of residents in the San Fernando Valley. We posted to over 280,000 residents, residential accounts in the San Fernando Valley. So that's a great reach, and thank you again for those of you who are joining us through the Nextdoor connection. And we're also doing target outreach to more than 50 key community groups, and we've done announcements at the 9 neighborhood councils along the alignment. We appreciate your partnerships. I see in attendance many of our partners, including those from the neighborhood councils. So I'm glad that you're here, and I thank you for joining us. We couldn't have done this without you. But one thing I do want to let you know is that although we've done all this outreach, we can always do more. And so if you have a group or part of a community group that wasn't able to join us today, let us know. Reach out to us through the contact information that we'll be presenting at the end of the page. At the end of this presentation, and we'll come to you and do a presentation about this project. We want to make sure that our list keeps growing. It can never be big enough. We want everybody involved in this. So I appreciate you who are here with us today. Next slide. So what we are also doing on our project website, you'll have many options to learn about the project. We have fact sheets and a lot of history on the actual website, but then we also have a link to a virtual platform. And on this virtual platform is the project video that we showed you at the beginning of this presentation. Again, for those of you who are joining us a little bit later and missed the video, you can always go to the project website and select the English or the Spanish, whichever video you would like to see, and also whichever platform you would like to participate in. This is an educational tool. As Katie mentioned, we have 2% who go to school on the alignment, and I want to thank you for participating. This is your opportunity to learn and also educate yourself about the project. Another thing that we have at the bottom of this online learning tool is what's called Before You Go page or tab. And that tab actually takes you to a survey. We would love it if you can participate and let us know more information about you, just as we asked you about the poll through the poll here. I think it would be great for you to participate and let us know how you heard about this, and also answer the questions that we have here. On the next slide, we'll talk about the project schedule. So where are we now? Right now, we're in the middle of the public review period for the final environmental impact report and final environmental impact statement. You're able to view it between October 2nd and provide comment between October 2nd and November 2nd. Now, once we're done with the review period, we're having community meetings as we speak to now. Today is the English meeting. On the 26th will be the Spanish meeting. So for those of you who are interested in joining us on the 26th, be aware that the meeting will be conducted in Spanish. I will be speaking in Spanish, as will the panelists. So hopefully if you are interested in participating in Spanish, you can join us then. If you would like to hear this presentation in English, we will have this uploaded on the project website and you can follow along that way. So once we conclude our meetings, Planning and Programming Committee is where the project will be presented on November 18th. And once the Planning and Programming Committee hears it, the next step will be to take it to the Metro Board is for the November-December cycle. They will certify the FEIR and adoption of the First Last Mile Plan on December 3rd. Once that happens, if it happens, we will next take the project to the FTA Record of Decision on January 2021. And once we complete those two items, then we can actually begin with moving forward into the next stage of the project. Now, the reason why I'm saying if it moves, we never know if the project schedule can change. As Walt was saying, this is very fluid, and we would like to have this information and everything available to present to the board in this schedule that we have here. Next slide is to talk about the next step. Well, I'll introduce Monica. Again, Monica is the next stage. Monica Bourne, it represents the next stage of where we are with the project and what will happen once we receive certification. She is our program manager for this project, the project manager who will help oversee the construction. Monica, I think, provides a lot of insight, working hand in hand with Walt as they are working on the pre-design, on the preliminary design, and also the pre-construction activities that are also going on right now. So that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Monica.
Great. Thank you, Tito. Hi, this is Monica Bourne. I am a Deputy Executive Officer with Metro. As Tito mentioned, I am in the Program Management Department, and I have been working on East San Fernando basically since 2018, not quite as long as Walt, but taking the project from what we're currently in right now, the environmental phase. I've been advancing the design, so I will take it from this design advancement on into construction and implementation by 2028 is the current schedule right now. So what we've been doing kind of in the background as Walt has been concluding the environmental document, we brought on a consultant, Gannett Fleming, to advance the design back in August 2019. They are advancing the design such that we can take this design and put it into a contract for a design builder next year. What that means as far as design advancement is that we are taking Walt's about 5–10% level of design that was sufficient for an environmental document, and we are taking it to the next level so that we can identify those risky areas and those areas that we want to look further into, whether they concern utilities, right-of-way, street improvements, those sorts of elements, so that we can also put together the next cost estimate for the project. So right now with advancing the design, like I said, we began last year in August. We will conclude advancing the design probably in April of next year. And we are including in that design advancement, like we say up on the screen, right-of-way, track, street improvements, drainage, utilities, the stations, the 14 stations, our one maintenance facility, and of course our systems work too. And the systems work would be like our catenary system, our power system, signal system, all of those various items that are important to further advance and identify for a future contractor. So as we advance the design, we hold several meetings with our various stakeholders, and they include not only our metro departments, making sure that our ultimate client of operation and maintenance people who are going to be taking over the project once it's built, that they are able to weigh in and give us guidance. We meet with them on a regular basis. We also are meeting with our various third parties that include both the City of LA and City of San Fernando, and all the various departments that are within these agencies like DOT, BOE, all of them conducting over-the-shoulder reviews and also giving them an opportunity to review the design as we move forward. We also have been working with Department of Water and Power because along Van Nuys Boulevard, there are several existing faults and overhead lines that they own. And so we are coordinating with them as far as those that need to be relocated or potentially protected in place too. LA County has several storm drains that run down the middle of Van Nuys, so we're working with them on how to address their various facilities along the alignment. And then we also have Southern California Edison, SCE, and the City of San Fernando too that we're working with. So it's important that as we advance the design, these various people are involved so that we have their concurrence, and ultimately, as I said, with our Metro people taking over the project and running it. This also includes, as we advance the design, doing field investigation work along Van Nuys Boulevard. And again, this is trying to address those risky areas. So one of the things that we have been doing out there is ground penetrating radar, which is basically running a instrument over Van Nuys Boulevard to identify at least horizontally where it is that utilities are located. And you might have seen us out there. We started in December of last year and concluded in July of this year. And now we're going to move on to the next phase of our field investigation, which is potholing and trenching. We are going to our board this month. And in fact, we went to our planning committee today and it was approved to move on. So once the board approves it, we will begin potholing and trenching along Van Nuys, starting on the southern end, and then we will continue that work after additional board approval next year. And again, this is important to identify existing utilities along the way, because utilities that you can't see are risky. We are also anticipating holding what we call an industry review this year, before the end of the year. And the industry review is such that we will call upon various contractors to review our draft design package and also our draft contract, with the idea of having some one-on-one conversations with them. What we'd like to do is be able to get their input so we know when we release the contract documents, we know we have headed in the right direction, and that we've also addressed their concerns so that we can have a competitive bid process. The contracting procurement process is anticipated to take at least a year, such that we hope to have a design builder, a contractor on board by early 2022. At that time, the contractor could then proceed with construction. So in addition to having our contractor come on board in 2022, we anticipate doing some pre-construction work, such as relocating utilities, and that could take place by end of next year. But we have to get through all of our field investigation, advance the design, get approvals and that sort of thing. So along Van Nuys Boulevard, we could anticipate relocating some of the utilities so that when the contractor comes on board, we could anticipate starting that end of next year. Next slide, please. All right, so as far as the next step schedule, the program management schedule, we anticipate initiating what we're calling the right-of-way property acquisition process along with utility relocation process. Again, after Walt has his environmental document concluded. We have to wait until the document is certified to do any of that type of work, construction, property acquisition, and both of these require a process to follow in order to actually do that type of work, property acquisition or doing construction like utility relocation work. So again, in early 2021, after the environmental document is certified, we've achieved ROD, then we can start the process of that. With utility relocations, again, we don't anticipate actually starting that work until end of next year. As far as bringing the contractor on board, the design build procurement, that's what we call our contract, is a design build contractor, because they're going to be taking design up to final design and then proceeding into construction. The procurement process takes about a year. So once they get on board, final design will be completed, and they can also start groundbreaking in 2022. We anticipate starting the testing for our light rail vehicles, the LRT, that we're calling on here, in 2027. That's when we would have sufficient enough track systems work done so that we can start the testing and then have the system up and running in time for revenue operations in 2028. Next slide, please. So as we've talked about before, I think I'm getting this to Tito. Sorry, Tito, didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's okay. Thank you, Monica.
Sure, sure.
Appreciate it. So we're yes, as I stated earlier in the presentation, that you have ways of providing comments. We are noticing that in the questions that are coming in, we're receiving comments on the document. Now, again, you can do so in many ways. As you can see on this page, you can send them by mail. Attention to Walt Davis, the project manager, at the address of our Metro headquarters of One Gateway Plaza. You can also call in and leave a voicemail of your comments via 818-701-3844. You can also email us at eastsfvtransit@metro.net. You can also go on the Metro East San Fernando Valley website and choose a comment form under metro.net/eastsfvtransit. And there you will have a tab that says comments. You can select that tab and provide your comments. What we're doing today is we're having a meeting and taking questions about the presentation and also about the project so we can answer them and create this forum for you. So, I want to make sure that people understand that this is their opportunity to ask questions to the Metro staff that is here so we can address the questions that you have. Again, if you have comments, please submit those comments through this page as we're showing you here. The comments received today are not going to be sent or a part of the environmental document. This is only an informational meeting, and I want to make sure that people understand where these comments are coming from and where they're going, that this is just to answer your questions. And we appreciate those of you who are joining us. Also, for those of you who have not been receiving our emails, please submit a comment form or email us to add you again to the database. I think I noticed that somebody said that they hadn't received our emails. Sometimes I've had some people where they accidentally unsubscribe. Just send us your email or provide a different email address in case it's on the do not send list. We would love to be able to keep you posted, especially as we approach the construction phase. You'll be getting a lot of information that pertains specifically to those of you who live and work along the alignment. So thank you to those for joining. The next slide, before we get started on Q&A, I noticed that we are getting some questions about acquisition relocation. As Monica was saying, the process begins next year, not the actual relocation. So there is time and there are questions that are pertaining to this. I want to bring in Mr. Craig Justison, who, and we go to the next slide, I'll show you the additional panelists that we have. Craig Justison, he's our Deputy Executive Officer for Right of Way, which is basically the person who will be working with people who are that are relocated as part of this project. We also have Mr. David Meager, who works with Walt in the planning department, who can also answer additional questions. And also, if you have environmental specific questions, we have Lilai Seki, Principal Environmental from ICF, and we also have Joel Falter, who's also a principal with the KOA Corporation. So we have those 4 additional people joining us in addition to Walt, Katie, Monica, and myself. So with that, I want to bring in Mr. Craig Justice, and just to provide a little bit more insight on the acquisition and relocation. As I said earlier in the presentation, some of your questions may be answered during the presentation, and for those of you who did not hear your answers, this is our opportunity to provide additional information since we are getting quite a bit of questions regarding acquisition and relocation. So with that, let me turn it over to Craig and do this additional portion of the presentation. Craig.
Thanks, Tito. There's separate slides. Can we get those pulled up? Thelma, I think you have access. Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for joining. On the screen, there's something called the Uniform Acquisition and Relocation Act, the URA. For those of you that may be impacted by this project, I think you'll become aware of the term URA. The intent of the URA is really to establish a process and benefits. We want to provide equal treatment for those that are impacted, and it is a federal directive. So it sets the cap and the requirements that us in real estate have to be able to provide to those that are impacted by the project. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go over this sort of a high level. Each acquisition, each relocation they're all different, but it's sort of a linear process. And you'll see at the bottom of this slide, it says the acquisition process is approximately 18 to 24 months. That varies. Some will go much more quickly, others will take longer. But from a high level, I just wanted to walk through the major steps. So looking at the participant list, I recognize many names, folks that have been calling us wanting to know if they were impacted. And I appreciate everybody's patience. The challenge we have in real estate is we can't tell you whether or not you're impacted until, one, we have the environmental approval and we have certified property requirements. So where we're at now is we're looking at getting the final environmental approval. Once the environmental approval is received, then the designer engineers will go through and they'll do what they call certifying the property requirements. Some of the requirements may be a full acquisition, some may be a partial acquisition, and we need the engineers to define what those rights are. Once we have those rights, then we'll move to appraisal. The appraisal process includes both the real estate itself, and it'll also include any fixtures and equipment improvements. The appraisal is conducted by a third-party appraiser, so it's not an Metro appraiser, it's a third-party consultant that we contract out. And property owners, those being impacted, will have the opportunity to accompany the appraiser when they inspect the property. And we always recommend, once we get to the point where we're out and we're door knocking and we're sending notices that an appraisal is going to happen, we really encourage owners to respond because you know your properties better than we do. So when the appraiser's out there, you can explain if there's have been any major upgrades that maybe are not visible, new plumbing, new electrical. We want to be able to account for those. The appraisal process in general takes about 60 days. Depending on the complexity, it can go up to 90 if we have to have specialists come in. Once the appraisals are completed, that information then is brought in-house and we'll prepare what's called the formal purchase offer. And the offer will identify the value of the property being acquired, whether it's permanent or temporary, and it'll also identify any of the value of the fixtures and equipment or improvements pertaining to realty that may be impacted. We will schedule someone from real estate or a consultant. We will schedule a time to sit down with those that are impacted, present the offer, and then we'll enter into negotiations. In some instance, owners will provide counter offers. They may secure their own appraisal, and we want to make certain we give owners ample time to do research to come up with their own conclusion, to some extent of value, to make certain that they're comfortable with what we've provided. Once we reach an agreement, we will open escrow. And escrow can take 60 days, 90 days. It just depends on how complex the transaction is, the purchase documents, availability of ownership. And if all goes well, then we'll close escrow and a check is cut to the owner. And again, at the bottom, you'll see it's an 18 to 24 month process. Let's go to the next slide. So concurrently with the acquisition, once the offer is presented to the owner, there'll be a relocation consultant that is assigned to, whether it's an owner occupant or a business. That relocation consultant will reach out to those folks. They'll schedule a time to meet. And again, we want to have the opportunity to meet with the businesses, the owners, to sit down and understand the exact needs. Like properties, you may know, well, you will know the business better than we do. So we want to understand if there are move challenges, specialty equipment. I know in one of the comments there was a mention of machinery. Machinery can be complicated. It has to have very specific move requirements. So we want to develop a profile of what those business needs are. After the initial interview is done, we'll provide formal notices. It'll detail in general what the benefits are. We'll sit down, make sure there's no questions with it, and then we'll also start looking at replacement properties. Now, we can't determine what property let's say it's a business where they need to relocate, but what we can do is provide listings to comparable properties, and we can reach out to brokers to see what's out there, what's available on the market. If there's assistance needed negotiating the lease, we can work with those that are displaced to help make that process a little bit easier. And then where it gets really more complicated is with the move coordination. So we've appraised the fixtures and equipment, and like I mentioned, the machinery. We need to understand what it takes to move. Do we have to have special permitting? Is there a special rigging to move the equipment? The consultant will be working with the owner to go through those steps, build the relocation schedule, understand the list of professionals that are going to be necessary to effectuate that move. And then generally, as the move is progressing, the relocation consultant will be working with the business to process relocation claims payments. So it may be milestone payments, it may be based on actual moving. And again, it's kind of complicated. It's all very specific to each business. The move could take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. It just really depends on the complexity of the business, the permits required. And if all goes well, then we'll work with the displaced business. We'll do a final walkthrough and a final walkthrough at the replacement property. And I think one thing that's important to note is just because a business vacates the property, it doesn't mean all the relocation benefits end. A business has up to 18 months to file a claim, so there may be some additional costs that come in after the move, and we're still committed to work with those businesses to ensure that those payments are made. So that's it from a high level. Real estate, we're happy to answer any questions that any owners or businesses may have. And again, we don't want to get necessarily tonight into specific cases. COVID makes it a little bit of a challenge because we're not always in the office, but I know Tito was going to provide some contact information and we can route questions through that, or you can email us in real estate. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And yeah, if we can go back to the slide, how to submit formal comments, that'll also provide you with the email address and phone number that you can reach out. If you have a specific question about your situation and want to speak to somebody from real estate, please email us at the project email address or send us a voicemail, and we will route that question directly to Craig's staff to help and assist you with this as we move forward. So as we get started with our questions and comments, let's start with the first question, and this will be for Monica, which is from Mr. Bart Reed, who's the director of the Transit Coalition. And he wants to know, what does the track layout look like at the Silmar San Fernando terminal?
All right. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Bart. Sorry we can't be here in person. It's kind of strange to be talking through my computer in my living room, but I will do the best I can. So the layout for the Silmar San Fernando station, that's our northern terminus for the locally preferred alternative. It will have our two light rail tracks with a center platform station. So if you can imagine, one track, a platform, another track, and then it will have the Metrolink track. There's a current single one out there today, and then it will have the Metrolink platform. So hopefully everybody can visualize that. So basically 3 tracks and 2 platforms that will be utilized out there for our northern terminus out there. And that's the one that also has currently parking that is designated for Metrolink. So when people come to utilize that station, they can walk, ride their bike, take bus, park out there, and utilize whether it's the East San Fernando Valley station or the Metrolink station.
Okay, thank you, Monica.
Sure.
The next question is going to be for you, but before I ask you this question, I wanted to share with people the phone number for those of you who are listening via telephone and are not able to provide the question via chat. Again, this phone number is specifically for those of you who are listening via phone and can text us your question. The phone number is area code 818-650-0619. Once again, the number is area code 818-650-0619. So now with Monica, this question has a few parts to it. So let me read it to you, and you can answer it and provide the answers to these little clusters of questions. So is the construction going to start at Oxnard and move north, or in San Fernando and move south, or throughout the entire line simultaneously? Also, how many months will each section of Van Nuys Boulevard be impacted during construction?
Sure. So with our construction projects, we take an approach of trying to anticipate what a contractor might do as far as approaching this project. At this time, we envision that when our design build contractor comes on board, that they will be first finishing up the utility relocation work along Van Nuys Boulevard, and then starting with the street improvement work. So they also may be relocating the track in the Metrolink single track in a Metro right-of-way. So what I'm trying to say is that work will begin in Van Nuys Boulevard. We anticipate on the southern portion and working their way north. As they continue to work north, they would work on a certain section and then close up the work and then move to the next one, that sort of thing, and move their way up Van Nuys Boulevard. Within the Metro right-of-way, they could simultaneously be working on relocating the Metrolink track, because that's going to be important to move that out of the way so we can start installing the 2 light rail tracks. Now, I just caveat all of this with the note that once a contractor comes on board, once our design builder comes on board, they are given the opportunity to construct the way that they see fit, unless we put something in the contract that restricts their type of ability to get into certain sections of our project. So, so once again, we anticipate, or we've developed our schedule such that a contractor would start on the southern end of Van Nuys Boulevard and work their way north. And then at the same time, they could be working in Metro right-of-way on the northern end to move that Metrolink track. And again, as they proceed with this work, it would be in stages, phases of it, so that they would close up one section after they worked on it and then move to the next one. And once we get the design builder on board, we will have a lot more, or continue to have, and have lots more community outreach meetings so that we can inform the public and even give opportunities to weigh in on how things are done. Did I answer all of that, Tito?
I think you did. Thank you, Monica.
Okay, sure.
And I'd like to call up Mr. Joel Falter for the next question. Joel, you can join us. This question is for you. It's regarding the project and specifically the driving north-south on Van Nuys. Is there a list of streets available of what streetcars can make left turns on driving north-south on Van Nuys Boulevard once the train is complete?
Yes, the environmental document identifies in the traffic section those intersections that will be closed and have left turns restricted, as well as those intersections where left turns will be permitted. That is included both in the transportation and traffic section of the EIR document, as well as the separate traffic study, which is included as a technical appendix to the document, which is available for review on the Metro website.
Thank you, Joel. We have another question now. This is we're coming back to Monica. The question is, how do you plan to coordinate with the City of LA to ensure signal priority is implemented? And then there's a comment after that saying the Expo line's greatest downfall is not having signal priority at key intersections.
Sure. Yes. So like I mentioned in my presentation, we have already started coordination with the various City of LA departments. That includes DOT. So we already are talking to them about how our signal system and the traffic signal system will work together. Remember, this is street running, and the intent with street running is that it's part of the community. And with street running, it's such that it's almost like another vehicle out there. So it's obeying the traffic signals out there. So we're working though with the City of LA to make sure that we can give our rail vehicles some of the green time that they need, but it's not like our Metro right-of-way where we have preemption, which basically cuts the traffic signal short. We won't be having that on the street running section. That defeats the purpose of street running, where we're just part of the other vehicles out there. As someone, I worked on Expo line, so I know what you're talking about with Expo and Blue Line. It hurts. I've been out there riding Expo line, and you're sitting there at a traffic signal, watching the vehicles go by. But again, we're working with DOT early on, and they also get those phone calls too about Expo line. So they also don't want to repeat that. So we're working to apply our lessons learned now so that we can make sure that we can keep our rail system moving out on Van Nuys Boulevard. Was that all of it, Tito? Sorry.
Basically, yeah, how did you coordinate? How are you going to coordinate with the City of LA? And as important as everybody would love to have signal prioritization, how can we assure that this is happening? I think signal prioritization is something that Metro values for transit, and it helps with speeding the project along the alignment with minimal stops for those of you who are taking transit. So yes, thank you.
Right, sure.
I'd like to bring back Joel for the next question. It's really based on a comment about traffic impacts, but what was the traffic analysis? Was there one done, and is there anything you can share about that as to any potential impacts regarding this train on the areas of Van Nuys Boulevard where it rides along the street?
Yes, great question. The traffic analysis does include an assessment of the removal of 2 traffic lanes along Van Nuys Boulevard. That was part of the forecasting process that looked at what future conditions would be with this project. We evaluated in this corridor 72 intersections along the corridor and the greater study area, and at the intersections that will remain open, well, at all intersections, excuse me, we evaluated the level of service with the removal of through lanes north and south, as well as any turn restrictions or reductions in left turn capacity. So the traffic analysis does include an evaluation of the loss of traffic lanes, as well as lane reductions at signalized intersections in the environmental document, and it's included in Chapter 3, which is transportation and traffic, as well as the separate traffic study, which is included in the technical appendix.
Yes, thank you, Joel. Thank you for answering that question, and it actually answered more of what my question was, but it did specifically want to know about the analysis with removal of traffic lanes on Van Nuys Boulevard. Thank you for addressing that. I'd like to bring back Walt Davis for the next question. Walt, if you can join us.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Walt. So this is another question with quite a few comments on it as well. So we can go through this question, and if you need to rephrase anything or to repeat, let me know. But the question's about the proposed iOS, asking when Metro will make a decision about the iOS. There's a comment about not seeing any revised plans as to how terminating the line at San Fernando Road would impact the intersection of Van Nuys and San Fernando Road, regarding the proposed station at the intersection of the proposed property acquisition at that intersection. So pretty much they want to know about what the plans are for that and when would that decision be made regarding the iOS. Can you provide some, I guess, scenarios at how this could happen?
The iOS was put into the FEIR as a precaution. Our board, every action that they've taken so far has been a commitment for the entire 9.2 miles, but we were seeing that right-of-way acquisition costs were going way up, utility relocation costs were going way up, and we thought that there might be a problem. When we were thinking about this, then the pandemic hit, and sales receipts started going way down. So the amount of funds that we had available for the project led us to believe that it might be difficult to build the whole project at the same time. We don't know if that's the case or not. We don't know if federal funds might become available or another funding source that not yet been identified from a state source or elsewhere. But what we did is we wanted to give our board a tool by which, if not enough funds are available, they had the opportunity to go ahead and move forward with the southern portion of the project. And I might point out that the southern portion of the project from the Metro G line north to just north of Roscoe to about Laurel Canyon constitutes almost 85 or 90% of the projected boardings that we have for the alignment. So it's the most essential part of the alignment. At a staff level, I cannot make a decision to do our iOS or put the timing of the iOS. It's something that will have to be decided by our board of directors. It is a tool that we put in the document again to allow them to do so if we don't have enough money when the project begins. As far as the question that pertains to the location at San Fernando and Van Nuys, the current drawings has us turning and taking a swath of property right there at the intersection at the southwest corner to enable the project when it goes up to San Fernando to continue across San Fernando Road and enter the railroad right away. However, if we do the iOS, and it might take a while to acquire funds, there are some opportunities where we might be able to stay on Van Nuys Boulevard. Those decisions haven't been made. We're looking at all opportunities. We would like to say right-of-way acquisitions. We don't like to take property where we don't have to. So we are looking, but we haven't laid out any final designs, how tail tracks might work. But I know Monica is working on it and looking at different options. Anything else, Tito?
Yes, well, we have another question regarding parking. So I'm trying to find that question regarding parking. So if you can address that, for parts of the alignment, Van Nuys is not as wide as we would like to maintain some of the parking. Can you address some of those impacts? And pretty much how we will address the parking in areas where it must be removed to maintain the two lanes and also have the train run down the road?
Well, parking doesn't have to be a part of a CEQA document. It's not contained within a CEQA document, but we knew that was important to LA, the city of Los Angeles. So in coordination with them, we did do a parking study. And when we found that parking is quite prevalent on Van Nuys Boulevard, there are parking restrictions during some parts of the day to allow the buses to utilize the parking lane, but a number of the spaces are taken. We know that with this project, most of the parking spaces on Van Nuys Boulevard will be eliminated, but we evaluated the corridor and we found that most of the small businesses have self-contained parking behind them. A little bit more difficult in the Van Nuys Civic Center corridor, but there are a lot of streets that allow parking and there are a lot of city-owned parking lots where people can park. The start of the project, we have no new park and ride lots planned. We do have the park and ride lot at the Metro G line, with the park and ride lot at the Van Nuys Metrolink station at Satakoy, and then we have the Sylmar San Fernando park and ride lot, but no new ones are planned. What we do plan on doing with the Metro G line, when we built it, we built a lot of parking. A lot of that parking wasn't utilized. We found a lot of people access our station by biking, walking, or taking a bus to our stations. So what we want to do is do the same thing with this project. Wait and see where the people are coming from, where the parking demand is, and maybe do something similar to what we did on the Gold Line with the Lake Street station, where instead of building a new park ride lot, we rented a space from a church that only used their parking on Sundays, and they need another revenue source. And that makes it so we don't have to acquire a property and level it because we might need more parking spaces. We can see what the demand is and work with existing parking infrastructure that's out there with the private sector and maybe create new parking. But again, no new park and ride lots are planned at the initial stage of the project. Did you bring up the question, Tito, and does that address it, or is there more to it?
I think that's fine. Thank you, Walt. We have another question for you, and this one was submitted via text from one of our, somebody joining via phone. And the question is about first responders, and it basically asking impacts to first responders and their routes with the new light rail. They want to know if it'll affect first responders and that use Van Nuys Boulevard.
We did work with the fire department, first responders for fire and police, and something that I'm not an expert at that, but I was kind of interested in talking to them. They know it's going to be more difficult to make left-turn turns for them and to cross the median. So something that they do is they have different firehouses respond to it. They have some type of GPS system, and when something comes online, they know which firehouse needs to respond to the emergency depending upon what left-hand turns they can make. So if it's on the right-hand side of the street, a firehouse that's further south might respond to it instead of a firehouse further north. And there are enough firehouses that we think the reaction time can be almost as fast, but there might be a matter of seconds delay because it's a different firehouse that's not as close, but because of the number, we don't foresee that being a significant impact. But I will state that we're absolutely working with our partners in the fire and police department and seeing what we can do to alleviate safety and security concerns and their response times. Okay, Tito?
Yes, thanks, Paul. So let's see, there's another text question, and which is great, but I understand that sometimes people don't capture the phone number. So I want to repeat the phone number for those of you who are listening via phone and want to provide questions via text for those of you listening by phone. The phone number is area code 818-650-0619. Once again, area code 818-650-0619. If you are viewing on a mobile device, tablet, or computer, please submit your questions on the Q&A feature at the bottom of the page, and we will get to those questions again. What we are doing is answering questions. For those of you who would like to provide comment on the document, you can do so on the form that we're showing you here on how to submit formal comments. You can do so through sending mail to Mr. Walt Davis at 1 Gateway Plaza, MS 99225, Los Angeles, California, 90012. I'm reading this for those of you who are listening via phone, that you would like to provide comment that way. You can also leave a voicemail to provide this comment at area code 818-701-3844, or email us at east, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, transit@metro.net. And you can also go onto the project website and on the comment form to provide comment. And our Metro website is metro.net/east, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, transit. So the next question is about I think it'll be for Walt. Let's see. How will the 20% budget reduction affect this LRT as it relates to the bus service cuts? Even though this project will not open until 2028, are there any potential impacts based on what we're experiencing right now? This again was received by a text message from our callers.
I'm not aware of specific cuts of 20%. I've never heard that. I do know that our sales receipts aren't coming in as robust as they have in the past, just because our primary funding source for Metro is through Measure R, Measure M, Prop A, and Prop C, the sales tax measures through which Metro gets about 2 cents for every dollar spent in LA County to go to transit projects. And because those sales receipts are not coming in, we don't have as much money as we did. That is one of the reasons we are introducing iOS into the FAIS, FAIR, which gives us the ability to move forward with the project in phases in the event that we don't have as much money as we need in order to build the entire project. So our present budget situation is one of the contributing factors that led us to adding the iOS into the project.
Thank you, Walt. And I'll add a little bit to this as well. Need to lower my volume. With the 20% budget reduction, that is current to transit, and Metro recently voted on applying these 20% budget reductions, but the Metro board also asked staff to report back to them every 60 days to provide any updates to go back eventually to 100% of budget that we were at before. So this is a temporary reduction. Again, this project is not until 2028. We don't foresee this being an issue, but again, anything is possible. We could have another issue happen. But again, this is only temporary, as I'm stating. The Metro board voted to apply this, but again, with instruction to report back on the need and provide updates until we are back to 100% of operation. So again, let's hopefully everything will work itself out soon, and we'll be back at 100% operation as we were prior to COVID. Katie, I'd like you to step up for the next question regarding first last mile plan. And as you are approaching, I will ask the question, does the FEIR give more details on the first last mile plan for this project? They're interested in seeing what specifically is proposed for each station on the plan. Can you provide some information about this, Katie?
Sure. So the first last mile plan is actually a separate document, and as the timeline indicated during the presentation, we're planning to take it to the Metro board for their consideration for at the November-December board meeting timeframe. But we hope to release a draft final of that plan document ahead of those meetings as well. So we'll be sending that out via update. So if you want to sign up for project updates, we can make sure that through that distribution that anyone who's interested in the full package of the first last mile plan can see it that way. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Katie. Again, as I was saying earlier, I noticed a few people from the neighborhood councils who participated with us in the first last mile walk audits. I want to again thank you all who are joining us. that were part of this plan. It was a great way of us walking the area together and getting to see firsthand where the potential stations are going to be, and how we are going to walk to and from these stations to our destinations. Monica, let's go back to you. I have a question about the iOS. This is from Faramars. How's it going, Faramars? Where does Metro anticipate placing the Van Nuys San Fernando station platform with respect to the iOS?
Right. So the iOS that Walt has in his environmental document right now, I think it basically says that will end before San Fernando Road. So as far as technically where the terminus station could go for the iOS, it could be the same place that Walt is showing in the environmental document, or it could also be in the middle of Van Nuys Boulevard. It's something that has yet to be studied and also determined. Right now, as part of advancing the design, since our board has not directed us to complete an iOS or to go forward with the iOS, the design advancement does not include this alternative yet. So as far as potential locations, those are the ones that we could look at. But again, once we get authorization from our board to proceed, if they do decide to do that, we would look at it more closely. But I anticipate one of those two locations could be an alternative out there. But we'll have to spend some more time on that to figure out what would be the best option after we're given the authority to start looking at it more closely.
Thank you, Monica. I also have another question for you, so if you can
Okay.
stick around. And this is more of a celebratory question. I'm guessing people want to know when we anticipate the groundbreaking. Is it early 2022, towards the end? Where will we break ground for this project to initiate construction?
Sure. Yeah. Right now, we've been advertising showing that it would be in early or first quarter 2022, March of 2022, would be the potential for bringing on a design builder and thus groundbreaking at that time. As we continue to advance the design and then also go through the procurement process with the design builder, we'll have a better idea of when that exact groundbreaking date would happen. Because once again, we anticipate the procurement process for our contractor taking at least a year. Unfortunately, sometimes things happen through the procurement process, so it might be extended a little bit longer. That's why I'm saying that right now we're saying March of 2022, but it may get pushed out for unknown reasons at this time.
Okay, thank you, Monica.
Sure.
Next question I'd like to bring up for the first time, Lee Laiseki from ICF to answer this question. And it's regarding the FEIR. Basically, any significant changes to the project scope as defined by the DEIR? And the second question is, does the FEIR offer those details regarding what changed?
Yeah, there were a couple of major changes with regards, at least one major change with regards to the project design, which maybe I'll talk about first. And that's, we've talked quite extensively about that, which is the project may be constructed in phases, in 2 phases, rather than the entire alignment at once. The consequences of that would not result in any new significant impacts. So what's described in the draft EIS-EIR and also in the final EIS-EIR. In the final EIS-EIR, we discussed the impacts of both the IOS, the initial operating segment, and the entire project alignment. There was also another change to the project at the southern alignment. The station footprint changed a little bit from what was in the draft EIS-EIR, but there were no new significant impacts as a result of that design change.
Thank you, Lee. And as for those of you who are actually joining us by a phone or watching on your mobile device or computer, a lot of this information about the environmental documents are available for you to view on our virtual platform, and you can link to it through our Metro website at metro.net/east, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, transit. You can learn more about the project, read the documents if you are interested in the environmental documents and would like to know more. You can do so. There's, again, the project video is on there. This platform is in English and in Spanish. You can share with your neighbors, friends, and coworkers, just sending them the link so they can view it and participate. Again, this is available now. You can access it as we speak. So it's basically this meeting and all the content that you can know about the project, but at the benefit of your time when you can access it and read it at your leisure. So thank you for those of you who are joining. I'd like to bring up Craig Justison back up to answer a question again about acquisition and relocation from real estate. The question is, Craig, how can property owners and business owners obtain more specific answers regarding timing and order of events? Craig, you are muted.
Sorry, Kevin.
Okay, you're on.
Here. I think the easiest way is to send information to you, Tito, in the contact that you provided. That'll get forwarded to us, and then someone in real estate will reach out personally to explain the process. It's complicated, so I can't do it now.
Okay. How about I guess one of the things is people saying how it says acquisition, relocation. It says early 2021. You know, does that mean that we would start immediately? I understand there's a process and whatnot, but is there a bigger way of looking at it as opposed to, like, you know, what your process includes before you are actually engaging with people on this? Because you know, there are, you know, people are curious for those of them who are in that realm of acquisition and relocation due to the project. And I think one of the biggest thing they want to hear is, you know, when do we start talking, and then what's the next step, and how can we get this done? I understand that each individual situation is specific to them, but you know, I think people should also know that we have a process, and the process is for them to help them in this as we move forward with acquiring the properties that are necessary to build what we need to build. So do you have any additional information you can share for that?
Well, I think from a high level perspective, the environmental will be approved if there are full acquisitions, meaning we need the entire property. Then that information will be provided to real estate sooner, as opposed to any kind of partial acquisition, meaning only a percentage of the property is needed. On our schedule, we're showing that to happen first, second quarter of 2021. Once that information, the property rights, are sent over to real estate, within 30 to 45 days, we'll be reaching out to those owners that are impacted.
Okay, thank you. And if people reach out to us and we connect them to you, you would be, your staff would be able to give them a better idea for their specific situation, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So again, you can reach out if you would like to send a question to Craig regarding real estate. Just email us at the project email address through the project website as well. But the email address is east, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, transit at metro.net. And please address it regarding acquisition and relocation so we can forward it and have somebody from our real estate department contact you specifically towards your situation. The next question is for Walt Davis. Mr. Glenn Bailey actually had a couple questions, but we already addressed the one about parking. His other question is regarding bicycle lanes. Will they be added or not? What do we expect on Van Nuys Boulevard?
Okay, Van Nuys Boulevard currently has a Class 2, which is a striped bike lane. that's available when people are not parking on the street, basically from Parthenia north all the way up to San Fernando Road. And for this project, I'm sad to report, yes, that bike lane will be lost. I am a bicyclist. I would have loved to preserve it if we could have made room, and I promise you that we tried. We are looking at parallel streets, but unfortunately the valley is not on a grid. There's not north-south streets that run parallel to Van Nuys Boulevard until you go about a mile to the east or west, because the Metrolink tracks kind of bisect the valley. So it's hard to find north-south streets where you could put it on. We did do a first last mile plan. We did identify other north-south streets where a bike lane could be put in place of the one that is currently on Van Nuys that will be removed. But the city of LA is the owner operator of the streets. We'll have to coordinate and work with them to see what we can do. It's not as easy as going out there and striping it, because generally if you stripe the street to accommodate bicycles, it's at the expense of on-street parking or at the expense of a through lane. So there's a lot of give and take. We got to do traffic studies to see what the impact would be. And also because since Van Nuys is going to be more heavily congested, there might be more motorists on some of those north-south streets. So it's harder to take a lane off. We are going to try to do bike accommodations on Van Nuys Boulevard. Bikes will be allowed on the trains, and wherever possible, we'll have bike lockers and or racks near the bicycle stations where you can park your bike securely and get on the train. Okay, Tito?
Yes, thanks, Walt. The next question is for Monica and myself, as I'll also be helping with construction relations, or being the construction relations manager as one of the many hats that I wear in the San Fernando Valley. And it comes from Ms. Marta Gallegos. And the question is about combination of construction, property acquisition, and eliminating of parking along Van Nuys Boulevard will result in some substantial changes for the numerous and small businesses on Van Nuys Boulevard and the residents who regularly use those businesses. So are there any plans to provide some additional help, support, and mitigation for those small businesses? And Monica, as part of construction relations from the community relations aspect, we offer programs for small businesses to advertise and to encourage participation and supporting our small businesses during the construction, including construction workers who are, at these businesses to provide as much business to them as possible. Mm-hmm. We have programs like Eat, Shop, Play, which is specifically to advertise your businesses during these closures. We also provide signage to your business should there be any immediate construction near your facility that requires your customers to know how to get to your business. And that's part of the whole construction relations process. We are with you through this. We'll also have an office on site if you want to come and talk to us, and we can work with you and with any potential issues that you may foresee. We're here to be a part of this with the community. We are definitely working with all our partners on this, and we would love for you to be also our partners with this when we move forward into the construction relations portion of this. So I think, thank you for that question. We will be there. You're going to see us. You're going to get to know us pretty much on a day-to-day basis, and you'll have immediate contact with us should you have any questions or concerns. So now, as far as how the construction will be done, and also with impacts to businesses and how we will work with businesses and on the construction side, Monica, can you provide some more information on that?
Sure. Yeah, I thought you were doing a great job, Tito. But yes, yeah. As far as like the specifics of the construction, I talked about some of that during the presentation. And again, once we get our contractor on board, there's going to be more outreach done, more specificity as far as where they're going to be and for how long. Again, just based upon past experience with building light rail here in Los Angeles, I've been working on light rail projects since early 2000, working on Pasadena Gold Line with contractors. Of course, they want to get in, get out, cause less disruption because they get the phone calls too. So anticipating that a contractor would come in, phasing of their work, starting again with utility relocation, street improvements, then laying out our tracks and that sort of thing. So again, working with contractors in Los Angeles, like Tito mentioned, they're going to be out there. You're going to recognize them. You're going to get to know them. I've seen contractors in the past also reach out to various businesses along the alignment, buying food, buying supplies, because again, they also want to keep everyone happy and moving the project smoothly forward. So more to come when we get going next year, and moving forward with a contractor coming on board and getting the project started.
Thanks, Monica. And
Sure.
I guess let me add another thing. You know, the valley is huge, and we know that. The alignment is also pretty big alignment. So you're not just going to have me there from community relations. We're going to come with the team. So we will provide that necessary support to you as well. So we'll have this team there for you, and you'll be learning and seeing new faces as we move along. And we'll be having more of these meetings as well as we approach the construction aspect of this. So thank you for joining us. I want to bring back Walt now. This is a question regarding one of our other big projects that is part of the valley, and that's the Sepulveda Transit Corridor connection. Walt, the question is, the transfer with the orange line looks well thought out with minimal vertical circulation and walking distance, including not having to cross any active streets. Can we expect the same ease of use when transferring to the future Sepulveda line? And before you answer, I just want to let people know that we're still evaluating the Sepulveda line and what type of service it's going to be. It has not been determined yet. We are in a phase where we have some teams that are looking to provide a solution as to what type of service it's going to be. So just so you know, these questions will be are questions that we can have when we move forward on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor aspect, which again, we're all connected in one way or another, but thank you for asking about the connection to this project. So Walt, if you can address this question, please.
I thought you handled it pretty well, Tito. We're not sure where they're going to connect with us. We do meet with them regularly. They're looking at a lot of scenarios to best meet the transit needs of their future riding public. What we're trying to do is make sure that where they can connect, that we don't build anything that would make it more difficult for them to connect with us. I'm not sure. I have no idea what design that will be, but I do know that they do want to make this as seamless, as safe, and as easy a connection to make it as seamless as possible for people needing to transition from their alignment to our alignment. So as much as I can, I'd like to say yes, it will be coordinated, but I can only say as much yes, predicated on I don't know where they're going to meet with us or touch us. I just know that I've met with that project team, and they know that they want to and somehow connect with the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor project. It's a different set of planners, as you know.
Okay, thanks, Walt. And yeah, so pretty much, yeah, we're all connected with the project team. The only thing is right now we still don't know the mode, and we still don't know the exact route for the Sepulveda. We just know the beginning and the end for the first phase right now, which is in the San Fernando Valley where it begins, and also on the west side is where we are looking to connect to the Expo line and a little bit beyond. So thank you, Walt, for that. I want to go back to a text question. And again, as I read these text questions, I want to also provide the phone number for those of you that are listening via phone that weren't able to get the phone number from me. The phone number to text your question is 818-650-0619. And this question is, how will Metro handle the freeway off-ramps and on-ramps at Van Nuys Boulevard and Remick? So I think this question probably could be addressed through Walt. If you can come back, Walt, and ask about this, answer this question, please.
Well, I might also invite Joel to join us, who did the traffic impact study. He's a traffic engineer and infinitely more knowledgeable about the subject, because I know when you're doing a on-ramp and off-ramp, there is a gore point. You want to make sure that the ramp doesn't back up onto the street because of safety concerns. But the specific design, Joel, if you're there and have anything to add, please join us.
Thank you, Walt. Yes, Joel, if you can please help with this question and discuss about the freeway off-ramps and on-ramps at Van Nuys Boulevard and Remick, please.
Actually, the coordination and design will occur during the preliminary engineering and the design build phase through coordination with Caltrans to ensure safe operation of vehicles entering and exiting the freeway, as well as safe operation of traffic along Van Nuys Boulevard. So that will be evaluated in the next phase of the project in greater detail than is discussed in the environmental phase of the project.
Thank you, Joel. So now I want to bring in Monica back to answer a question about the light rail through the underpass. So Monica, can you answer this question? How do you plan to run the light rail through the railroad underpass, since there is a column in the middle?
Sure, yes. So I believe what they're talking about there is where the existing Van Nuys Boulevard goes underneath the Metrolink underpass, close to Keswick today. So the plan right now is that our rail system would follow basically the same type of alignment, going underneath the existing Metrolink bridge out there. And right now, yes, there are columns in the middle of Van Nuys Boulevard. We would be basically going around them, and there's sufficient room for our rail system to be built around it and still maintain 2 lanes of traffic on either side of it. And also just wanted to kind of jump in on that last question about the freeway off-ramps. We have already started coordination with Caltrans and started discussion with them. So that's something, again, as we advance the design, we meet with these third parties like Caltrans and talk with them about how we're potentially going to be addressing such things as their off-ramps and other such facilities. So we have started that discussion with them.
Thanks, Monica. I have another question for you.
Okay.
And it's regarding lockers and storage. So the Chatsworth Metrolink station, the Chatsworth Metro station has a row of little boxes, containers where bicycles can be stored, locked, protected from elements and theft and vandalism. So they want to know, will any station terminus or stops have this that we have?
Yeah, so we have already, like I talked about in the presentation, we are coordinating with our various metro departments, and I believe it's our active transportation group that is in charge of our bike racks and lockers, and as far as helping us figuring out what we need to have where. We do have certain criteria that's also in our requirements as far as metro. And in the past, we have done both bike lockers, which I believe is what you're describing there, Tito. We've done bike lockers and bike racks. What we're finding, and again, this is what I'm being told through our active transportation group, bike lockers are kind of on the way out. And so right now, what we're anticipating are installing bike racks at our stations. And with our project being street running, these bike racks, we're anticipating putting them in the sidewalk at each of our stations. It's something that we still need to work with and coordinate on with the City of LA because it's not metro right-of-way, it is in public right-of-way. So it's something as we advance the design, we're coordinating with them exactly on where it would go because we don't want to obstruct our sidewalks or the City of LA sidewalks.
Thanks, Monica. And it looks like you're on a roll. We have another one for you here.
Okay.
So the question is about the Van Nuys station at the Orange Line.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, where is the station at the Orange Line going to be located? On Van Nuys Boulevard or west of Van Nuys Boulevard? Looks like the documentation shows both.
Okay, so I don't think Walt had in his presentation that beautiful rendering of Orange Line, or maybe you did, Walt. I see you're jumping in there. Maybe.
Yeah.
Did it have the rendering?
The document doesn't. And as you know, when we were doing the document, we were looking at being on the west side of the street. But we gave in this presentation the most updated. So I think the document has both. But what we presented in this presentation underneath or in the middle of Van Nuys Boulevard, directly underneath, which we think is the safest and most coordinated way, is what it will likely be like with the Orange Line directly above.
Gotcha. Sorry, I missed that. I guess I've seen too many presentations lately, but yes. So like Walt said, with the Metro Orange Line, it will be grade separated, and then the East San Fernando Valley Station will be basically perpendicular at grade below it. And I think we're flipping to the There we go. Okay, so I'm used to a little bit different or drawing there, but yes, the orange line is what's showing up above on an aerial structure in East San Fernando Valley with the light rail train there. Will be down below. Access will be provided via stairs, escalator, and elevators.
Thanks, Monica. And
Sure.
we also have another question for you, which it's a comment that we've heard a couple times tonight. If the iOS ends at San Fernando Road, will Metrolink add a station at this location to permit transfer?
So right now there are no plans for Metrolink to have a new station there at Van Nuys in San Fernando. It does sound like a good idea, but it is something that's currently not on the books right now. It's one way of having that transfer. So again, we're waiting to see what our board wants to do with this project. If it is something that we're going to pursue the iOS, that might be something to include in our analysis too.
Thanks, Monica. Looks like we have another question here for, I think it's for Walt.
All right.
And it's regarding bike lanes again. There's a part 2 of the question that was brought up earlier. Is there room for them along any portion of Van Nuys Boulevard with the light rail project?
There might be an opportunity north of Laurel Canyon. In the environmental document, we say no, but we are talking north of Laurel Canyon. But to be honest with you, they'd be at the expense of parking, so probably not. We're looking at every opportunity. There'll still be the Class 1 bike path that's adjacent to the railroad right-of-way. That's next to the Metrolink tracks. That will stay in place. We're not removing that. We can coexist with that Class 1 trail. But on Van Nuys Boulevard, even north of Laurel Canyon, likely no, there won't be room. It squeezes the street too much, 26 feet, the need for the railroad right-of-way, and then you add another 13 to 15 feet at station locations. It just takes too big a swath out of the street and fitting everything in. We're having to do partial takes of acquisitions and full takes just to make room for the railroad right-of-way. So in all likelihood, no, to be honest with you, there will not be bikes on Van Nuys. We are looking at parallel street. Kate Lemon talked a little bit about the first last mile, and I know that in her plan, she looked at a lot of parallel streets and a lot of opportunities, but there's a lot we'll have to work out with the city of Los Angeles before any of those can be advanced.
Thanks, Walt. And, as a light rail user myself, for those of you who take bicycles up and down Van Nuys Boulevard, you can also take your bike onto the light rail to go along the alignment for those of you who like to travel that way. But I know many people also like to take their bicycles for exercise and whatnot. But just wanted to let you know there is another option as well. And as we are talking about first last mile, I want to thank you all for joining us. The time right now is 6:33. We're here to answer your questions. And so if you have any additional questions for those of you listening by phone, you can call us. You can text us at 818-650-0619. I'd like to bring in Mr. Joel Falter. Here's another question regarding, it's specific to the document from Fairmars. So the question is, would it be correct to say, based on table 320, that the initial operating segment will significantly worsen the level of service for drivers at 16 intersections?
I don't have the document open in front of me or available this evening, but if the document does report the level of service impacts with each project scenario, whether it's the full alignment or initial operating segment. So that sounds correct. That the level of service would worsen.
Joel, I'm losing your audio. Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
We're having an issue with the audio. Let me go on to the next question, and we'll come back to you. We can work on that. So let me bring up Monica for the next question, and then we'll come back to Joel. Monica, do you know exactly how big the MSF site will be?
Yes, right now we're anticipating it being about 21 acres. So to give you some idea of what that looks like, over on the Gold Line, the Monrovia yard, it's about the same size as over there. We anticipate having our fleet at this facility, and our fleet size ranges between about 72 vehicles, between about 51 vehicles to 72 vehicles, and they will be stored out there at this maintenance facility site. It will be the type of site where it's a standalone, because obviously it's the only light rail maintenance facility out in the valley. So we'll have paint shop, body shop, cleaning platform, storage area, and then also area for the employees to be able to come and go through their shift. So we'll have parking for them, and also our maintenance of way people, the people who also maintain the track system, the overhead lines, the power system, all of that will also have their offices and parking out there too.
Thanks, Monica.
Sure.
I'm going to take another question before we go back to Joel, so to ensure that we can connect with him. So this question is also regarding construction, but it's more regarding construction for the business interruption. So I will take this. And the question is, does Metro, and they're asking City of LA, but this is a Metro project, so I'll focus it on Metro. Do they compensate, does Metro compensate businesses for lost revenue during construction and or after construction is complete? If so, how does that work? And how will each city fund, how will the city fund each business? Again, Metro. So we offer programs to help with promoting the businesses, such as Eat Shop Play. We have pilot programs that we are currently implementing on other projects that we are working on. Again, because they're pilot projects, we have to get approval to implement them for a business interruption fund, which again has to be something that is proven through the businesses, through previous records of how the businesses were prior to construction. As for afterwards, from what I recall, there's no pilot program for providing any assistance afterwards, but we do offer, additional incentives for Metro riders once we open to connect with your business along the alignment. So it gives them another access to you. So I want to thank you for the question. Again, we will be on site to help you with this. So if you have any questions when we start with construction and we're out there, just come to us and talk to us. We're here to connect you to the right people for this. Again, I think I'll go back to Joel. We can connect with you. Can we see if we can hear you?
Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you better. Yes, it's a little bit low. But do you need me to rephrase the question, or are you able to answer the question regarding that specific segment on table 320 about the initial operating segment and the impacts to the 16 intersections?
I understand the question. I don't have the document in front of me, but the table and that section would identify the impacts, the significant impacts for level of service at all study intersections under the initial operating segment scenario.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. I caught most of that. Again, Fair Mars, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to.
Can I jump in, Tito?
Sure. Let's see if Walt can help with this.
I just want to say that a level of service analysis is no longer required in a rail environmental document. What they found is that virtually all rail projects don't do well with level of service because it's going to limit left-hand turns and limit throughput at some intersections. So the level of service is always going to look bad. What the state looks at now is vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, and that reflects better with rail, works in concert better with rail. But for this document, we did do a level of service analysis because in the past they had been required, and we wanted full disclosure and let people know. Early on in my presentation, I did say that there are going to be traffic impacts. We cannot deny it. When you put a train down the middle of Van Nuys Boulevard and you limit the number of left-hand turns that can be taken, and they can only be taken at major intersections, and you eliminate those left-hand turns at secondary intersections, there are going to be impacts. People are going to have to find different ways to access the businesses they want to go to. So the level of service on virtually all rail projects does not look well. But generally in time, people find different ways to navigate it and to get around. And again, we're making a more efficient utilization of Van Nuys because we can carry with rail about 7 or 8 times more than one lane of traffic can in north-south. And as densities increase, as more people are traveling, hopefully it'll encourage a lot more people to use the rail system, which can carry about 4,800 people in each direction per hour.
Thanks, Walt. Thanks for providing that answer. So it looks like we have one more question, so I will provide a last call for questions. Again, it's 6:41. We're 11 minutes past our initial closing time, but we want to answer as many questions as possible. With that, I want to bring back Monica for another question. And again, Monica, the Metrolink has announced its intention to double track San Fernando, its intention to double track San Fernando tracks. Are you looking at combining this project to save money since the LRT was going to have to relocate the tracks anyway?
Sure, yeah. So the double tracking project that I believe this person's referring to is the Brighton to Roxford project. Basically, the plan is to install a second track adjacent to the current existing single track of Metrolink. It goes beyond the limits of East San Fernando Valley, and it also has its own environmental process, funding sources, all of those items. So currently there's no plans to combine our project with their project. We are working with them, though, to make sure that we are including sufficient room for them so that at a later date, Metrolink or a regional rail group, when they have the clearance and the funding, their analysis done, they can come in and install the second track, or what I would call the fourth track, after we're done with East San Fernando Valley. Okay.
Thanks, Monica. It looks like we have a follow-up text question regarding the the light rail. How will it rail affect ADA compliance? I'm pretty sure that it won't affect it, but rather improve ADA compliance, I'm guessing, right?
Right, yeah, we always follow the ADA requirements when we're designing our systems, such as with our stations. They are called, they're slightly raised, 3 feet 3 inches off the adjacent grade. So we will have ramps that allow ADA compliance there for, well, all of our stations are at grade, so they'll comply with that. So yeah, there's no effect on ADA. We're in compliance with it.
Thanks, Monica. And I have one more question from via text from what it sounds like. And before I continue on, I think I think ADA is a common term that many of us have heard before, but some of us may still not be new to this. So let me rephrase what ADA is to those of you who are asking. But it's Americans with Disability Act. So it makes accessibility for those who are on wheelchair or have any disabilities that prevent them from being able to climb up steps or access by that way. So so there are ramps and other means of providing access to people with ADA needs. The question is about restrooms along the light rail. So will there be any restrooms along this project?
Right, just like other metro stations, metro projects, there are no plans, no requirements for bathrooms. Unfortunately, they are a security potential and also a maintenance issue. So just like other projects that Metro has done, there's no bathrooms planned at any of these stations.
Okay, thanks, Monica. And it looks like we have the last question here, which I can address, and it's asking us if you'll be able to use your Metro Tap Pass on this new train, and the answer is pretty much yes. This is a Metro project, so anything that you have to pay with Metro. For Metro buses, Metro rail, subway, you are able to use our Metro system pass that we have, whether it is your tap card or your phone tap service that you have available. And again, in 8 years, who knows what the new system will be, but whatever it is that we're using on the system-wide, you'll be able to use this on this train. So I don't think there are any more questions. The time right now is 6:45. So if there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. So I want to let you know that, again, if you have any formal comments you would like to submit, tonight was for questions. You can do so by reviewing the screen that you see on your computer or tablet, and I'll read some of this information for those listening by phone again. You can, if you want to mail it, you can mail it to Mr. Walt Davis, Project Manager at Metro. His address is 1 Gateway Plaza, M as in Mary, S as in Sam, 99-2-5, Los Angeles, California, 90012. You can also call in your comments on the project hotline, 818-701-3844. You can also email us at east, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor, transit at metro.net. Those are the ways you can contact us and provide your comments that would go, again, towards the document. Otherwise, let me rephrase that. I misspoke on Walt's address. Let me say that one more time. If you want to mail Walt Davis, his mailing address is 1 Gateway Plaza, M as in Mary, S, that's short for mail stop, 99-22-5, Los Angeles, California, 90012. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you for giving us your evening, and we hope you were able to learn more about this project as we reach a major milestone. Again, our next meeting will be in Spanish. If you would like to view this presentation, if you missed parts of it, it will be uploaded to the project website in the coming days, and you can just review it at your leisure. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great night. Take care.